Hi everyone. As you may know, my name is Abbi Kneuss, and I'm going to be your student's ELA teacher this year. So today I'm just going to talk about something I'm really passionate about that I want to incorporate in our classroom. But before we do that, I want you to look at this problem on the board, and we're all going to play the role of a student right now. And as you're solving this problem, I want you to think about um, how you solve this problem. Let's engage in a little bit of metacognition and think about how you're going to solve this problem. I know some of us have been out of math class for a while, so let's just think about it. Okay, so does someone want to let me know how they solve this problem? Someone else? Right, so we all answered this problem in a different way. For some of us, this problem may have been easy, or maybe in some STEM fields, and some of us, it may have been more difficult than we really anticipated. I was looking at math problems to put on here, and honestly, I found this one, I had to think about it for a little bit. And some of us, we may have preferred to have a heads up that we were going to have a math problem today. Or maybe you would have preferred that I spoke the problem aloud to you or presented it in a word problem format, like a problem solution format, instead of how it's presented here. So I want you to imagine how it would feel if we recognized in the classroom that there's different ways to solve this problem and understand this concept and to get to the same solution. I don't think that we all recognize that our classrooms don't always do that. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, as I nodded to earlier, we are going to be talking about differentiating the middle school English language arts classroom. So you may be asking yourself, differentiating, what is it? Is it just another fancy word that my student teachers are going to use to confuse me? And I'm just here today to provide some clarity for you guys. So it is embracing the differences in needs, abilities, and interests of your children and teaching to them. It's expecting the school to bend to your child's needs instead of what we kind of traditionally think of, tell a child to bend to the school's needs, sit here and listen for 8 hours a day. It's reimagining fairness in the classroom, and what is fair to each child may look different, contingent upon their needs and abilities. And it's based on data and observations. So this isn't just an ad hoc thing that we're adding on. It is proven to be an effective use in the classroom. When I give examples to students, I like to give examples of what something isn't. So when I give a definition, I also like to give an example of what it isn't, because I actually find that helps your kids understand vocab words a lot better. So, differentiation, it's not excusing your students from our curriculum or achievement standards. They're going to be held to the same state standards. It isn't lumping students into different smart and dumb groups, which is kind of that place that your mind might automatically go with this and feel like, no, I don't want my kid doing that. And it isn't just for outlier students. Differentiation is going to be for every student in my classroom this year. Okay, so I'm going to explain those 4 kind of tenets of differentiation that I gave you in the first slide. I'm a little bit more in depth here. So I said that differentiation is embracing students' differences. So an example of that, if you look at number 1, is a struggling reader in my classroom won't be expected to read the same material as an excelling reader without proper support. Say we're all reading the same novel, I'm not going to expect all students to read that novel in the same way and through the same methods, because students aren't the same and they're not going to learn the same way. And students are also going to care about what they read about. That's also a tenet of differentiation, is that it incorporates in students' interest as much as possible. All right, that second tenet we kind of talked about is expecting the school to bend to your students' needs, not the other way around. So a really easy example there is you can look at number 2. Basically, active student isn't going to be expected to sit still the entire day because we know that just doesn't work. That third tenet, reimagining fairness, that's really a large thing of differentiation. Students need to understand that they're going to be given different types of work under this model, depending on what works for them. And some students, and maybe some of you, may be quick to jump to, hey, this isn't fair, my kid's not doing the same level of work or the same project as another student. But we are going to reimagine fairness to understand that even if student A is working on something they're struggling with and student B is maybe not struggling with that concept but doing a little more work on that concept, they're really doing the same amount of work. All of our work is helping us grow, and it is equitable. And then kind of the last one there, differentiation is based on data and observations. In differentiated classrooms, teachers and parents collaborate to know their children and to know their students to tailor the instruction to them. My methods are going to be based in substance, not in assumptions of your kids. I'm going to be asking you, I'm going to be asking my students, I'm going to be pulling data that we have on them in the school to meet their needs best. Okay, going back to what differentiation is not. Like I said, it's not excusing students from achievement standards. Students will be challenged and expected to meet the same state standards as they would any time in this grade level and in this class. Differentiation is not lumping students into groups of smart and dumb. They are going to work in different groups. Some days that may be based on abilities, others on their interests. We are going to understand in this classroom that ability can be grown. No one is smart or dumb. Everyone is good at something, and our skills are constantly evolving. And then that third tenet is that differentiation is not just for outlier students. All students in my classroom are going to participate and benefit from the differentiated classroom. Once we do this for one student, we do it for all, and it helps everyone to learn. So I just kind of wanted to bring you through a sample period and what my differentiated classroom is going to look like, just to kind of help you visualize this a little bit more. So imagine our students are coming into the classroom. We are sitting down and having a discussion about what the expectations of the period are, because students are going to be working either independently, in groups, with me. They're going to be doing different things at the same time. So we talk about expectations. And then I usually like to do 5 minutes independent or paired reading just to work on students' fluency. Students are reading text based on their interest and reading levels, just to get a little bit of reading in every single day. Okay, well, I'm not going to read this word for word. I'm going to provide the slides for you as well. But in this class, we're going to say students are working on a research project. They've chosen their topics based on something they're interested in, and they've chosen how to present that research from a choice list that I provided them with. That choice list has opportunities for kinesthetic learners, visual learners, for however students want to present their findings and learn from them. Students have been given their choice list kind of based on where the level I want them to get at the end of this and the level I think I want to push them to. Some people are working alone, some are working in groups based on their similar questions and inquiries and topics. Others may be working with me. They're working on different things, but they know they're expected to work. And every student has a checklist that kind of helps them guide them to each step. Of course, I'm always available to answer questions, but students are really working collaboratively together at the same time while sort of working on these independent research projects. So then as these students are working, as they finish up, they are going to independently turn in the work that's required to be turned in. The checklist I just mentioned is going to let them know where to turn it in and what needs turned in. And students are going to be trained on these things at the beginning of the year so that they know what to do next and they're not just left questioning. Students who finish early are going to work on in-between work or kind of grab and go work, as we like to call it. And those are going to be worksheets or activities the students have a choice in that I'm going to keep in the classroom. And they may help build on vocab we've been working on before. There may be something a little bit creative like journaling a picture of something we've been talking about or they're researching about. And then sometimes they may be able to, if they've completed enough of that in-between work, just have independent reading or independent free time, as long as they are focused on something and not disrupting the people who are working. Everyone else is, either given extra time to finish or we make out a plan of when they could come in and work with me to finish it. And then by the end of the period, I just want to take about 2 minutes, everyone to reflect on the work that they've completed today, congratulate themselves, and fill out their checklist so that they know what they've done and what they have to look forward to. And if you click on that link there, you can kind of see a sample checklist for one of our projects we'll be doing this year. So you may be thinking, this sounds new. It sounds, like a lot of work, and it sounds very different, and I'm kind of nervous about how my student will adjust. Why should we do this? And I just think that we should talk about that there's a lot of great reasons to differentiate the classroom. The first one, we kind of already talked about this. Everyone is different. You and I are different from each other in our beliefs and the way that we learn and the way that we communicate. And we shouldn't be expected to learn in the classroom in the way that your students are all uniquely different. You shouldn't be expected to learn in the classroom in the same way. And so it really embraces that idea of trying to make a classroom that's varied in the way that it teaches its varied students. And then students can't reach their next educational level without opportunities that help them get to that level. If they're just continuously stuck in a loop because they're being forced to learn in the same way, they're never going to be pushed to get to that next level. Differentiation is always going to be encouraged to push them to that next level. And it encourages a classroom of collaboration, not competition. I talked about this a little bit when we talked about the idea of fairness. The differentiated classroom is really focused on group work and understanding the classroom as a community so that it can function smoothly, rather than one where students are being placed against each other or vying for the best grade. It's really more a movement towards a community classroom that's learning together and encouraging each other to be the best that they can be. It also gives students choices. Like we talked about in this last example where we're talking about the research project, differentiation really embraces the idea of trying to give students choice in what they're learning and how they're displaying that learning. And it's just a great way to show your kids that they're valued in my classroom. And then finally, this I think is the best part. It builds independence, organization, and advocacy skills. Like we talked about in the last slide, students are knowing when they're turning in, what they're turning in, and keeping themselves organized because they're maybe not always being directly directed by me. And then it just encourages their advocacy skills in the way that they become excited about what they're learning and they understand that they are a valued learner in my classroom and they know when they need to speak up for themselves. I think, in the differentiated classroom, so much of it is the teacher asking the student, do you like this? Is this a good way you'd like to learn? And that really teaches them to advocate for themselves as learners who are valued in my class. Okay, so I just kind of briefly want to go over the expectations that I'd be placing on myself and promising to you and your students. I'm going to adopt that new view of fairness we talk about. I'm going to base my strategies on a combination of data sources, like I talked about, from the students, from you, from my observations, from data we've collected at the school. I'm going to adjust instruction as needed if the data shows that students aren't excelling in the differentiated model I set up. I'm going to keep open lines of communication with you guys. I'm going to be sending newsletters home. Obviously, we're posting on Progress Book, and I'm always available to talk. And I'm going to do what I can within my abilities and resources here at the school to create a differentiated classroom. And I'm going to work each day to learn through your students and through you, and to just improve my practice as a teacher. And you can see here my expectations of your students. I want them to adopt that new view of fairness, so they're not saying, hey, Johnny is doing a different project than me. That's not fair. I'm not going to do my project. I want them to work each day to learn. I want them to know that we are here to learn. I want them to value that collaborative classroom over a competitive classroom. I want them to maintain my trust to be able to work independently and in groups, which is crucial to the differentiated classroom. And I want them to contribute their ideas to me about what is working and not working for their learning so that we can figure it out together and adjust instruction as needed. And here's where you come in. I want you to also adopt that view of fairness. I want you to understand and focus that your child is getting equitable treatment as everyone else. I want you to encourage your child to learn. I want you to communicate their needs to me. I want you to value collaboration over competition in your homes, just to kind of teach this concept to our kids so it works out of the differentiated classroom. I want you to contribute your ideas to me about what is working and not working for your student. And finally, I want you to place trust in me in implementing maybe this new idea for some of you. I'm here today to talk about this. I just want as much trust and open lines of communication as we can. So these are just kind of some visual examples of what a differentiated classroom looks like. As you can see, students are working together. Some students are working independently. In this one, you can kind of see students are working on their iPads, and in the back, they're working on a different project over here in a group kind of collaborative setting. You can look at these more in depth on your own, but as you can see, students are engaged, but they might not all be doing the same thing. And the classroom is just looks a little bit visually different than what we're used to. Like I said, I'm going to provide these slides for you. We don't really have time exactly to work on this today, to look through this video, but this is a great example of a differentiated middle school classroom in action that I found. Please watch this over if you have any questions, because this is a great instructor who is implementing it in the way that I'm envisioning implementing it. Finally, you know, I am a resource here for you. I want this to be a collaborative process between you and your students and I. Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can answer for you at this time? I'm always happy to set up observations so you can see this in action once we enact it in the classroom. Thank you.